When I was hired at Western in '85, he was my go-to person. If I needed a problem solver, or if he was causing a problem, I could always talk to him. And he was Dr. Statistics, you know. Anytime we had any problem with statistics that we needed to gerrymander, we would go to John. No, I'm just kidding about that. He was always ethical and always helpful to students and to faculty members like myself who didn't know as much about statistics. But most of you probably know John from his passion here in our area here. John is a bon vivant, which he lives a sociable and luxurious lifestyle with his lovely wife, of course. And but he focuses on one area, and that is sports. Those of you that know John, John is a sports nut. There isn't any day of the week that you can't call John and say, hey, would you like to go to this basketball game, or would you like to go to this hockey game, or would you like to go to this football game, or would you like to go to this golf match, or would you like to see cricket? No, not cricket, but he is now actually, according to his bride, passionate about cricket ball, and I've never watched cricket ball, but I guess he has. And pardon me? Pickleball. Oh, bad notes. Pickleball. John is now big on pickleball, I guess. But some of you, I want to just tell you one thing that you might not know about John is that he was an NCAA official for many years and worked basketball games, football games, hockey? Not hockey, okay, but basketball, football, and he is a sports nut, and he's my friend and go-to person when I have any questions about sports, John Geisler.
Thank you, Al. That was such a nice introduction. I cannot wait to hear what I'm going to say. The topic is the West Michigan Pike. I've had an abiding interest in roads and highways since I was 14 years old. By the way, that's exactly 70 years ago, in case you want to know. Okay? I figure at 84 that my age just caught up with my IQ. Okay? But I have been interested in roads and highways. And for two reasons, I guess. And one is we used to get the Saturday Evening Post at our home. I did not know it, but the Saturday Evening Post is still published. Yes, I've seen it. It's out every 2 months. They've changed it. It's not a profit. Curtis, I think, was the publisher. And it's now a non-profit organization that publishes the Saturday Evening Post. Two things about the Saturday Evening Post that I didn't know until recently. They printed that in such a way and in such a time that it always came on Saturday afternoon. So Saturday Evening Post was the correct time and the correct publication. I also didn't know this until very recently. Up until 1950, everybody got 2 mail deliveries a day. So they always arranged it that they got the afternoon, you got the afternoon Saturday Evening Post on every Saturday. There was a particular feature in the Saturday Evening Post that I really enjoyed. You may remember it. they would take a snippet from a map somewhere within the 48 states, okay? Because there were 48 states back in 19, whatever year I was. And you had to study it. It's random. They just cut a piece out of a map someplace in the United States. And you had to figure out what state it was from. And then they would have down at the bottom, go to page 41 to get the answer. I refused to go to page 41. I would not do it for at least 24 hours. And I was right about 25% of the time. Because after I'd gone through several of those, I began to realize the shape and size of the highway signs. That made a difference as to which state it was from. They would also occasionally have a federal highway in there, like Route 12, which happens to be my favorite road. Well, the trouble with that is if it's a long road, that could be across the entire United States. That does not help very much. And particularly if it would have been Route 20, US 20 is the longest highway in the United States. It's about 3,300 miles long. That doesn't help to know that 20 is on your map, because that could be 15 states. Okay? So that interested me every time that came on Saturday night. The other thing that I found out about maps, and I just, we don't read many maps anymore. We got that GPS, excuse me. But at one time, you read maps if you wanted to go from point A to point B. So I have in front of me a map, and you can look at it if you wish sometimes. This is a map from 1978. Why 78, John? Well, because the state highway commissioner, we had a highway commission back in 1978. Milliken was the governor. And the head of the commission was a man by the name of Peter Fletcher. He was a businessman from Ypsilanti. And he was a graduate of school. You'll figure it out in just a few minutes where he graduated from. But he required the map maker, the cartographer, in the 1978 official Michigan map to put 2 towns in the state of Ohio that were fictitious. What a wonderful joke that is. I mean, it's true. You can see this because they're on this map. And this is a collector's item, by the way. They aren't free. By the way, when's the last time you ever got a free map at the gas station? How long has that been? I think it's probably 1960, 65. Because you used to, huh? Oh, yeah. But I'm not going to drive 65 miles to get that one down there in New Buffalo. So here are the 2 names of the 2 towns. They're very, very small print. This one is about 10 miles east of Toledo. Go Blue. True. In lowercase, all one word, Go Blue. G-O-B-L-U. Where did he go to school? Okay? And people chided him for that, and he said, well, you still got me 1 beat. I said, somebody asked him about that. He said, that's getting the Mack Bridge painted green. That's a retribution. Well, the other one is about 20 miles west of Toledo, and it says, "Beat Ohio State." I love it. And in fact, it really says, "Beat OSU." But they are there, and if you want to see this, I'll pass it around. But I paid about $50 for this map, so don't mess it up. Okay?
You obviously went to the wrong gas station.
What?
You obviously went to the wrong gas station.
I have material back in that table that I'm leaving, so after this is over, I told my wife 2.5 hours tops for this tonight. There is some material back there that you might enjoy. There are two things in particular. There are the best book on the West Michigan Pike. One of the authors is Wilson, and that's back there. If you want to know more on a really, really good book, read that one. Up on the over here in this little corner is a map. It's a 1924 Michigan map. It was issued semi-monthly. It cost $0.25, okay? And it is a map on the current condition of every road in the state of Michigan. So evidently some people wanted to get updated on the status of roads quite often. I found that a little bit surprising that somebody would want to do that. Okay, we're going to talk about, got more stuff here, the West Michigan Pike. And let me just outline what we're not going to do. I'm not going to talk about it all the way up to the Straits. That would take too long. And I'm going to talk about how the road was built, where it was built, and how confusing it is today to go and find it. All right, it went from Chicago all the way up, and I want to tell you about this little leg here. It's from South Bend up to St. Joe, and continuing on throughout. That at one time was the Blue Star Highway. All right, the entire length was the Blue Star Highway, including this length here. There is no more Blue Star Highway. The length. The Blue Star Highway only exists in one place, well, two places, Van Buren and Allegan counties. That's it. The state of the legislature has, in all our wisdom, decided just to remove Blue Star. The Blue Star effort began in New Jersey with a garden club. And they wanted to honor, 1944, they wanted to honor, that garden club wanted to honor all people serving in the United States Armed Services. So what their decision was to do this, plant dogwood trees. They were all about beautification. And they planted on Route 22 in the state of New Jersey, on both sides of the road, 8,000 dogwood trees in the 40s. And that was their contribution. Now, what has happened with that idea is that most states have a Blue Star Highway. And usually it's the markers are maintained by a local garden club. Federated Garden Clubs of America is the national organization. There are about 17, I think. I've got a number here. I think it's 17 that go all the way. The one that is southernmost is in Niles. If you come up from South Bend, it's very clear. It has a marker, and the marker would say West Michigan Pike in honor of all people who have served in the armed services. And that one's very well maintained. The one in South Haven is the best one I've ever seen in terms of maintenance. And at one time it was in a ditch. Al would remember it was in one of those fire lane ditches south of South Haven. Where were you? F5 or something? Do you know, Dave? Okay. Well, there are fire lanes and they're dirt, and they're just big enough to get a fire truck down to the seashore. So, but that's the prettiest one. It's really very stunning. There's another one in Saugatuck. When you come up from the south and you come through Douglas and you're about ready to turn left to go into Saugatuck, go straight with what is called the bypass, and you will see a memorial marker there. There are some in Muskegon, Ludington, Traverse City, Petoskey, but some of them are gone. I mean, literally, no one knows where they are, which is a sort of a sad commentary, I guess. So that's the Blue Star Highway. The other highway that will come in here in Benton Harbor is the Red Arrow Highway. Now, a little bit about the Red Arrow Highway. The Red Arrow Highway starts in, what did I say? Way down here. New Buffalo, thank you. Goes to Benton Harbor, St. Joe, and then curves, Michigan Avenue through Waterville, Paw Paw, Lawrence, Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, all the way to Detroit. That used to be the whole line, all the way from one end to the other, was the Red Arrow Highway from 1953 to 1960. In 1960, our lovely legislature said, we are going to remove the Red Arrow from the rolls of highways in the state of Michigan. It was only there for 7 years. The road is still there. I'm not saying we took away the road, but they took away the name. And it's only in 2 places that it's available now. And it's still there, and that would be Berrien and Van Buren counties. If you go out Stadium Drive and get to Van Buren County, you will see the Red Arrow, and you will see that all the way down to New Buffalo. But they have messed it up as far as I'm concerned. This is, I'm sorry, this is not very clear, and that's because they had a little brochure that the Federated Garden Club put out nationally, and this was printed in 1950, okay, which, friends, is 73 years ago. Whoa. This is a sign. It's going to be, this sign will be in either Allegan or Berrien County, period, because that's the only place you'll see it. Now, this is a detour on the Blue Star Highway. But I'll tell you what, can you imagine somebody coming up from Indiana saying, "Where am I?" BS has a different meaning than Blue Star. And if you didn't know it was on the Blue Star Highway, you would think that's crazy. Why would you put BS on a detour sign? It was there. I went by it. It was there for a week. And you had to go 1 mile and then 1 mile and then 1 mile because they were putting a ditch or something in there. But this is also one of my crazy signs for those of you who have seen my crazy sign. This is the official symbol for the Red Arrow Highway. The Red Arrow Highway was an Army Reserve division, and it was the men were from 2 states, Michigan and Wisconsin. And so this thing was probably 1918 when they were formed. Here's one you may have never seen. This is a new effort. This was taken outside of South Haven. I'm going north on the Blue Star Highway. And this is part of a collection of 3 or 4 different signs. But we now have in the United States an effort to have bicycle routes national in scope. And that's why you see that 35 with a bicycle right above it, and it's a U.S. highway for bicycles. I'm going to show you where. Is that for the 35 or the bicycles? Okay. Now, this is a very clear and good map, but the blue marks are the bicycle route. Okay? So look up here, you see, and underneath it, see the black? That's 31. So it parallels for much of its trip, much of its mileage, and they parallel each other. Because this is the old 31. It's been replaced. And it goes up on the the Leelanau Peninsula about halfway up, and then it comes down to Traverse City. And here's an interesting place. This is Petoskey, and just beyond Petoskey, past Bayview, okay, you turn left to Harbor Springs. Harbor Springs is over here. So there's a cutoff here for the bicyclists, and they go up to Cross Village. Anybody been to Cross Village? And then you go across, I think it's on Levering, and then there's a very special United States bicycle route, ferry route. You get your bike and go on the ferry and go over to Mackinac, and then you go get off at St. Ignace at the other end and go to Sault Ste. Marie. So there's a new routing kind of system that's going to be going on for bicyclists. Now there is one of my problems when I took on this task for myself was, where is the real West Michigan Pike? I really didn't know. I've done the Sauk Trail. In fact, I presented to this group. The Sauk Trail is easy. That's US 12. That's an old Native American road. There was no trouble in finding it. US 12, are you kidding? And that's where the Sauk Indians went across to the Midwest. Finding the real West Michigan Pike is a whole different thing. And I'm going to tell you how I did it, and you're going to see I have some material here to give you. Now, this was the West Michigan, this is the only sign left of the West Michigan Pike. This is in Grand Haven, at the corner of Fulton and Grand Street, I think it is. And it's still there, but it's the only one. And these signs, first of all, they're expensive. Back then, they cost $350 a piece. There's 5 feet above the ground, and there's 3 feet below, and they weigh 350 because there's a great big hunk of cement they had to put in the ground first, and then put this on top. And there is a little note there. Let's see what it says. Whoops, I'm gonna west. Can you see the west? Okay. Michigan. Pike. It's the only sign that's left. You can read that. I don't like people reading to me. You know, when it's all up there and you all can see it. Unless you're slow readers, I'm done. Okay? So my question to myself is, I'm going to concentrate for this presentation on Southwest Michigan only. And I'm going to show you what happens. I want to tell you this about this one first. This sign is in the Welcome Center off I-94. If you've never stopped there, you should stop. There's artwork, there's history, there are plaques. It really is a very, very pleasant place. And it's also the busiest welcome center in the United States of America. Now, if you've read it by now, you will notice that, and they didn't say it very clearly, but the original Welcome Center is near here. Is that something like wording to that effect? Well, old dummy's got to go where near is, and I have no idea. I have no idea where this old Welcome Center from 1935, I can't believe it's still there. Well, I've got to go find it. Well, the first thing I have to do is get off the expressway. I'm on I-94. So that means you got to go to the next exit or back to the exit behind you so that you can get on the road leading out of New Buffalo toward Chicago. That's where I thought it might be. So about 45 minutes later, I found it. I found this Welcome Center. Now that's a very bad, pretty poor picture, but I can enlarge it just a little bit. And they were called travel lodges. Not Welcome Center, 12 travel lodges. And I'm going to go back and take this back and show you it. This is what it looks like today. I didn't know where it was, but as soon as I saw this small little cottage affair, but 35 car parking spaces and no cars in them, it gave me a clue that maybe this is where the Welcome Center is. And indeed, it is. Different things are happening there. They haven't used this thing since 1972. So with the first Welcome Center, you're looking at it right now. It was Michigan. And now there are 250 Welcome Centers all over the United States. But this one worked. How many people came on Route 12 through Gary and Chicago and so forth? 35,000 people the first year this was open. So it was well worth the money to put this facility in. This is another view of it. I'm sorry. No. No. I don't know what it is. I'd have to look up here, but it's a commercial enterprise. The state sold it. The state does not own it. They've got this brand new one out on I-94. They don't need this. It's excess baggage. This is what the old welcome sign used to look like. About 6, 7 years ago, we have a new one. And this campaign has worked very well, by the way. Okay, here's another highway. Now, some of you have heard about the Dixie Highway. There is no Dixie Highway. There's no such thing. There are Dixie Highways. Look at all those. The original Dixie Highway was from Chicago to Miami. Look at the other ones that glammed on. Why did they glam on? Well, because the Dixie Highway had a nice brochure, and all the motels and hotels and dining rooms were advertised. And now we've got these people up in north. And by the way, this is called the Eastern Michigan addition to the Dixie Highway. This is the West Michigan Pike. This is the Eastern Michigan Pike. But it didn't last very long. So I have a problem. My problem was, how do I go find the West Michigan Pike? Easily, quickly, no such thing. So what I did was download something called an auto trail. Before we had numbering of highways, how do people get to go where they want to go? They buy a brochure called an auto trail, and that will give you maps, even though there are no numbers. All there are is highways and street signs. I downloaded this one. This is the Map, Routes, and Tourist Directory of the West Michigan Pike, 1915. That was the year I think Jim Coppinger was born. Right. A scenic highway all along Michigan. It's 19 pages long. It's got all kinds of advertising. It's got all kinds of material, pictures. It's a brochure. It's an advertising brochure. But it also tells you how to drive, and there are no numbers. So I decided I want to have a real live experience. I want to get on the West Michigan Pike. Where do I go? So I go to this page, which starts the travel, starts the trip. Okay? That trip starts in Michigan City. So I've got to go get there. Now this thing's 100 years old. I wonder if these streets are even here. Well, I found the street. Go to Michigan City and go to Franklin and Michigan. Turn your odometer to 0, because from now on, the odometer will tell you how far you can go before the next turn. All right? Go 1 block north to 2nd Street and turn right. Crossing the railroad tracks at 1.0. That's my odometer talking. 1 mile. Okay? Cross the railroad tracks at 1.0 with the railroad now on your left. Listen, you better have somebody riding shotgun I didn't. I pulled off and I read it. Then I get back on the road. Okay? Now it says, quote, jog left and right. Not a 45-degree angle or any, just jog left and right. Crossing the railroad track again, okay? Jog left and right, past the Grand Beach Resort. Now, Grand Beach is a small community down in that area near Michiana, and it's really at the base of Michigan. Jog right across the railroad and immediately turn left, going under the railroad at 8.8. Go to the end of the road. Okay. Turn left around the church. I hope there's a church there. Yeah, that's what. Turn and at the first corner, turn right through New Buffalo. That's where I am. Keep right at the first turn, curve to the right, and again at 10.1, and turn left at 10.2, which is 1/10 of a mile away. And pick up the telephone poles. Pick up the telephone poles. And I stopped my car and I said, why are they telling me to pick up telephone poles? That's a term of art, which you learn when you are trying to find your way around these kinds of roads. Picking up the telephone poles means look at the nearest telephone pole and how is it coded. Okay? The West Michigan Pike, the code, they paint the telephone poles, a section about 10 feet high, and it will have normally 3 bands, a white band, a purple band, and a white band. And maybe something in it says WMP, West Michigan Pike. Now you know you're on the right road because you have identified the code that's on the highway that doesn't have a number. But that's the only way you will know you are on the correct road. And that's the way you go all the way up to the top of Michigan. There are no direction signs, just these things on the friggin' telephone pole. And you're supposed to pick it up. In other words, you're supposed to see it. That's what it means. Now, when did we start numbering roads and highways? In Michigan, 1919. First time we had numbers in Michigan. We were the second state to have numbered highways. The first state was Wisconsin the year before. Okay? And did they number the roads in any sequential pattern? Absolutely not. Of course not. So what was the West Michigan Pike called? What was its number? M11. Now, here's what they called them back in those days, this road. Emma 11. They twisted the pronunciation so it sounds like a woman's name. Emma 11. M11. Got it? And M11 goes all the way up. And so we have by the way, the Highway Commission made a decision to every state road will have the letter M. All state roads, not county, not federal, all state roads will begin with an M. There's only one other state that does that, and they don't use an M. Think how many M's there would be. Montana, Mississippi, Massachusetts, okay? But Michigan was the one that started it. And Kansas is the only other state that has a letter before the number on the road. So what all the other states do? What do they call theirs? Not an O, like Ohio. No. They just say Route 6. That's what a state will do. Now, they may have unusual signs. Some states have the cutout of the state. You can tell by the shape of the cutout. But no states have those letters like that. You'll notice here, it comes up from Indiana. This is South Bend. Oops, am I right? Yeah. Oh, here's South Bend, and as it goes north of South Bend, it veers to the right, so it's northeast. And what is this? It's hard to see this state, what the city is, but at one time, friends, right here, the Dixie Highway came through Kalamazoo. I didn't know that. And then it went over up to Grand Rapids and then over to Muskegon, then all the way up. Okay. I've got a couple of 3 more minutes, and that's it. So I don't think I have. This is the kind of automobile that we're talking about. This is a 1912 Ford. By the way, cars were not enclosed. You know, I mean really enclosed. The first one to have it done was a 1913 Cadillac. But most of the other ones, 1920, almost all cars became enclosed. Up until that time, you had to wear a leather sort of garment. You had to wear goggles. You had to wear gloves because you were driving in wind, rain, whatever. You were in an open car until about 1920. Here are a couple of other ones. I found these on M43 going to South Haven one day. That's Model T on the left. That's about as open as you can get. Oh, it's got a little cloth on top. And that's a 1920 Model T. The other one was a 24 model. If you read it carefully, it says that it was driven to this point 4 miles away, just to give you an idea that it does really move. There it is. Good compression, driven 4 miles, but still needs a little tinkering. Okay. This is what M11 looks like. 1918, New Buffalo. Notice how it goes back and forth. It's not a new road. The new Pike is not a new road. It's the old roads upgraded. The only place that's new is above Petoskey, because that's all clay and sand up there. They had to make a highway. But it's like climbing stairs almost. And here is the road to South Bend. It goes through Berrien Springs. It always did, except the new one. Have you been on the new Parkway? Anybody been from Benton Harbor to? It's the best way to get to South Bend, by the way. That's all 4-lane now. You don't have to get off at Napier and take the back way. Yes. It is a 4. Aren't you glad you came tonight? About 6 months ago, they opened it up. So if you go to Kalamazoo to South Bend, it's 4-lane the entire way, including that Napier exit. That was a bugger. Yeah, you don't have to do any of that anymore. Yeah, okay. So that's my journey. And I would be glad to meet you in the back, talk about the map over there, and I thank you very much for your attention. Yes, question?
I'm a Hoosier, and my late wife grew up in Detroit. And a few years ago, we took a trek up north, and she introduced me to the cult of M11. There are people that take, no, I'm wrong, M22. See, 11 is a half of 22, and there's
Yes.
probably people know about the cult of going on M22.
Yeah. I've got it on my car,
Yeah.
M22. Yeah.
I was wondering if there was any correspondence with these roads to the Native American paths, because I know around, well, Kalamazoo and as well as where I live,
Yes.
a lot of the roads developed on the paths.
Not true here.
Okay.
Not true here. No, they weren't. I don't know whether there were any paths or not, but the route did not follow. They followed section lines. Section lines are 90 degrees. You saw that ladder looking like it wasn't smooth. There wasn't a curve in that.
John, when you mentioned too about that little village of Go Blue,
Yeah.
adding those to maps.
Yes.
The other is that for the publishing business, like Rand McNally and some of the other ones,
Yeah.
for copyright protection, they would put a phony city in a few places because if someone printed the map, but they actually pulled it from their work and reproduced it, they would go to court and say, "See, here's this little town that we
Because
artificially
it doesn't
placed."
exist.
It didn't
Oh,
exist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Google and Bing actually did that. Google put some fake search results in and found out that Bing was actually stealing search results from Google because they were just nonsensical words that were suddenly showing up in the Bing search results. Dictionaries too?
Right. Thank you. And I'll see you back here if you want to have any more discussion.
Well, thank you all, and
Let me get this.
we will see you all again next month. Easy to remember that it will once again be the 15th of the month.